The cursed companion. I had always been a solitary person. Living alone in my quiet house on the outskirts of town, my only companions were the creaking floorboards and the occasional whistling wind that snuck through the cracks in my windows. The silence was comforting, but after years of solitude, it became suffocating. That's when I decided to adopt a pet. I visited a small, dimly lit shelter one afternoon, where an old woman guided me through the narrow aisles of cages. Cats of all colors and sizes stared back at me, some meowing, others ignoring my presence. Then I saw him, a sleek black cat with piercing yellow eyes. He sat perfectly still, staring directly at me, as if waiting. "That one," I said without hesitation. The woman hesitated, her wrinkled hands clutching the cage's door. "Are you sure? He's been here a long time. People say strange things happen around him." I laughed. "I don't believe in superstitions. I'll take him." She reluctantly handed him over, and as I left, I swear I heard her whisper, "Be careful." First, everything seemed normal. The cat, whom I named Salem, was quiet and well-behaved. He roamed my house with an eerie grace, slipping through shadows like a ghost. But soon small things began to change. Objects moved from where I had left them. Lights flickered unpredictably. At night, I heard soft whispers echoing through the halls, though I was certain I was alone. Then, I started waking up to find Salem sitting on my chest, staring at me with those glowing yellow eyes. He never blinked. He never purred. Just stared. I convinced myself I was imagining things, until the nightmares started. Dark, suffocating dreams of being trapped in a house that was no longer my own. Shadows stretched unnaturally. Voices called my name from the corners of the room. And no matter where I ran, Salem was always there, watching. One night, I jolted awake to the feeling of something cold brushing against my cheek. My heart pounded as I turned on the bedside lamp. Salem was sitting on my pillow, inches from my face, his mouth slightly open, whispering. I scrambled out of bed, my breath coming in sharp gasps. "Oh, no, this isn't real." But the moment I looked away, the whispering grew louder. Had to get out. I ran to the door, but the knob wouldn't turn. The windows wouldn't budge. The walls seemed to pulse, the shadows growing, stretching, slithering toward me. I turned to find Salem perched atop the dining table, his mouth still moving, his eyes now glowing like molten gold. I didn't hear words, I felt them. A presence, ancient and malevolent, pressing into my skull, filling my mind with a dark, unspeakable force. I clutched my head, screaming. Blood dripped from my nose. My vision blurred. My legs gave out beneath me. Darkness swallowed me whole. I awoke to silence. Not the comfortable kind, but the oppressive, suffocating quiet of something waiting, watching. My body ached, and the scent of iron filled the air. I was lying in the middle of my living room. The furniture was overturned, deep claw marks carved into the walls, the wooden floor soaked in blood, my blood. Salem sat a few feet away, calmly licking his paw. A cold realization settled in my gut. This wasn't just a nightmare. Something was wrong with him, something unnatural. I needed to get out. I stumbled to my feet, my hands trembling as I reached for my phone. No signal. The landline was dead. The only way out was the front door. I took a deep breath and ran. But the door wasn't there. Where it had been, there was now a wall, seamless, as if a door had never existed. My breath hitched as I turned to the windows, but they, too, were gone. The room stretched unnaturally, the shadows at the edges growing darker, deeper. I heard a voice. A low, guttural whisper that curled around my spine like ice. "You brought me home." Turned slowly. Salem was no longer a cat. He stood on elongated limbs, his body twisting, stretching, filling the space with an impossible presence. His face remained feline, but grotesquely exaggerated, too large, too sharp. His eyes, those glowing yellow voids, bore into me, piercing through flesh, through bone, through my very soul. "You are mine now." The whisper became a roar, a force that shook the house to its foundation. My skin burned, my lungs screamed for air, and yet I couldn't move. Tendrils of darkness slithered from the walls, wrapping around my limbs, pulling me down, down, down. The last thing I saw was Salem's gaping maw descending upon me. Then nothing. When the police arrived the next morning, they found nothing but an empty house. No body, no signs of struggle, only blood splattered across the walls and floor. And in the center of it all, sitting innocently amid the chaos, was Salem. He meowed softly as the officers approached, tilting his head in feigned innocence. They took him to the nearest shelter, believing him to be the only survivor of whatever horrific event had unfolded. Days later, a family arrived at the shelter looking for a pet. The black cat with glowing yellow eyes sat perfectly still, staring directly at them as if waiting. "That one," the little girl said without hesitation. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, Salem purred.